Just retweet the tweet that I
Already did.
tagged you in. But all right, I think we are live. What's up, Giants fans, Hub watchers, YouTube subscribers, Twitter and Instagram followers, and fantasy footballers. It's been a while since we've done this. I'm here with my man Dan from Five Wide Football. It's been a couple of weeks. Hopefully, you guys remember him. It ain't been that long since the last Fantastic Giants episode. Dan, how you doing? And for those of them that forgot, what is the Fantastic Giants, man?
Fantastic Giants is when we talk about the Giants, which sadly aren't fantastic right now. And we give some insights on fantasy, which is pretty fun to do. I'm always happy when we do it.
Exactly, man. Hence the name Fantastic Giants. For those of you that don't know, unfortunately, I actually was not able because it was low key, kind of fast paced last minute. I wasn't able to put the 5Y football links in the description, but on YouTube it's the same name. Ain't nobody else got that name. Go over there to their channel, subscribe to it. Go over to 5Y Football's website, which is a completely fantasy football based website. Tips, tricks, articles, stuff like that. You name it, they got it. Anything else you want to expand upon that I probably forgot there?
No, actually, I just signed into YouTube and I'm about to drop the link.
You should be able to. I know sometimes some people are not able to. Real quick,
I'm gonna
shout
do
out.
it in the chats. I'm gonna drop them
Bet.
in the chats. So,
Shout out to everybody in that chat, by the way. Jaden Dawkins, Logan's Gaming Lounge, Joseph Balby, Nerding Out Sports, who has his own channel. Go check that out, guys. Sajid is in here, Edward Chan, Mike Nixon. What's up, everybody? So, what do you want to go to first, Dan? Do we go to fantasy first, or do we save that for the latter half, or do we talk about the Giants first? Because since we haven't had it, and since basically the season began, between me and you, there's a lot of stuff that people haven't heard from you.
So I think let's start off with the Giants. I have to admit, I have been so upset with their play that I actually turned the game off with 5 minutes left 2 weeks ago. And this past
Against
weekend,
the 49ers?
Yeah. In this past weekend, when the Rams scored with, I think, about 4 minutes left, I got up and left. I was like, all right, well.
Well, I can't blame you for turning off the 49ers, but that Rams game had me in there to the last minute. I was out here just hoping something would happen.
I'm not going to lie. I ran to Lowe's to pick something up for my house.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into a parking lot and I pull up ESPN on my phone and I'm like, shit, they're driving. I was like, oh, damn it. Did I mess up? And then sadly, that's all they did was drive.
Oh my God, man. All they did was drive. Unfortunately, Daniel Jones threw the game-ending pick. That's like his second or third game-ending pick of the year. I want to say second because there was no pick at the end of the Bears and we were never in the 49ers. But what did you like from that Rams game? Because for me, coming off what was the worst game I've ever seen in my life in the 49ers, there was a lot of room for improvement, and they did improve a lot.
I really have loved the guy you were all over. Blake Martinez has been an absolute beast. Every week he looks better when I think he can't look better. He was all over the field. I thought our defensive line played good, not great.
It's crazy. Our linebacking core has played great because of that one star in Martinez, but our defensive line, which seemingly has 2 or 3 stars on it, is performing just okay.
Yeah. Bradbury has been looking pretty good. Holmes is like a roller coaster. Darnell Holmes. I felt like he fell a little bit, not a little bit, a lot for Kupp's, like head fakes and little quick stops. But I mean, Cooper Kupp's a great route runner. He makes a living doing that.
I just want to say Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are probably 2 of the most underrated wide receivers in the entire league, and even in fantasy, you don't see them picked up that much for when we get into fantasy a little bit later.
Yeah. I just traded for Robert Woods. Questionable. I don't know. I think I did a good trade in my one league, but we'll see. We'll get some people's opinions. I think so. I guess what I'm happy with was the way that the defense looked. I was happy to see a little bit of signs here and there from our running game. I thought Wayne Gallman looked pretty good when he got a chance. They're not playing him much, and I don't know. I think he might be better than Freeman, who I think's a bit washed up. But
The
That's
reason
neither
I
here nor
currently
there.
prefer Freeman, and let me get your thoughts on this. The reason I prefer Freeman right now is because I feel like he's more consistent. Gallman, it's crazy that I'm saying this because he did have that one big gashing run, I think with like 25, 26 yards. But that seems to be Gallman. It seems like unless there's a hole, he's not going to make that big play. But Freeman, each time we put him in, he's getting those consistent like 3, sometimes 4 yard runs, like the dirty yards, the hard yards.
Well, the thing I think too about Freeman, I don't know if we're giving Gallman enough touches for me to say like straight up he can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean he's gotten 10 carries on the season. Um, Freeman can do more. He's got really good hands. He does have the speed and stuff for that breakout potential when he gets out into the open field, which I don't think Gallman has. But that being said, like I don't think Freeman's quite what he was.
Oh, for sure, he's not what he was. I wanted him on a pitch count like maybe 15 yards a carry. We almost got that. He got 11, and I'm all for the running back by committee. I'm all for. I want Freeman to be capped off at around 15. Give Gallman the next year, and if somehow, some way we're actually running the football, that means there's going to be another share left over for Lewis. But I definitely want it to be a by committee type of thing.
I'd agree.
And I got, by the way, I've been seeing you guys' comment. I'm not ignoring them. You know, when the conversation is going, we got to get to the conversation. Shout out to Mr. Fishing in the chat as well. John Doe, who with the new profile pic, man. And he says now he's different from all the other John Does. And real quick, I want to get to Jaden Dawkins' comment here. And I've said this. I haven't said the second part. His comment is, Giants are missing an inside linebacker, number 2 corner, and a legit pass rusher. We're easily top 3 defense. Now, I'm not saying we're easily top 3 defense, but we're currently one of the best defenses in the NFL. You guys heard me correctly. One of the best. The Giants are currently ranked the 13th best defense in the NFL, top 10 in the pass defense, number 8 overall, and number 11 overall in the run defense. And we are missing that second middle linebacker. We haven't found who that second cornerback is yet. And in terms of pass rush, while by the numbers we've been right around NFL average, we don't have that number 1 guy. If we had, say, any of those positions, or even if we had our 2 starting safeties, who we've been missing. We don't even have our 2 starting safeties. Where do you think this defense ranks?
So I was actually just arguing with my dad the other day about this. My dad's he's like a Vikings Giants fan mix, but he loves football, watches a lot of it, and he was saying that he felt like our corners lacked depth. And I was saying the same thing. I was like, if Baker didn't get arrested and he was playing and living up to his potential, you know what I mean? That I really feel like we could have been a top, maybe right there as a fringe top 10 defense.
Well, we are a fringe top 10 right now at 13.
I guess I should be saying in the top 10, in the lower half of the top 10, because I really believe that like they've got the coaching, they're being put in the right position. Even with, like you're saying, Jabril Pepper's out, we've got
and McKinney out.
Yeah. So I think that those are signs, you know, pointing the right way. I think there is a little bit of question on how good the defense is, in the fact that besides this last game, we haven't really been competitive in the second half. So sometimes that.
Well, Chicago, we were competitive in the second half as well.
True. We were. Sometimes that artificially makes the defense look a little better when the other team isn't trying to score as much. They're just trying to run the ball out.
I'll definitely say for Chicago and for Rams, which is why I'm convinced this defense is as good as it seems. We had them on the road. Chicago, they were panicking. We just couldn't complete it. Same thing with the Rams. You could have seen Jared Goff. He got angry. He was getting angry. I'm not sure if you already cut off by that point. He was getting angry in the pocket. He was calling all types of audibles. He was running no-huddle offense. So the defense was definitely performing to past expectations. I mean, let's be honest. Myself included, I would say a good amount of Giants fans expected this defense to be somewhere in the 20s. Definitely not fringe top 10.
No, and I agree. We definitely gave Goff fits. And I think I do think we're a solid defense. I'm not trying to sit here and say we aren't. I'm just saying that it's hard to be too happy about the Giants right now. The one good thing is the division's a joke. NFC East, worst
The
division.
NFC least.
Yeah. And I mean, I was just listening to what is it? It was Fox Sports Radio. They do a 1 hour gambling show by me, and they rank the 3 stats that predict your record the best are point differential, turnover differential, and amount of time leading. The NFC East, all 3 teams are in the bottom 10, and actually the Cowboys have the worst turnover differential, and they have been leading for the least amount of time of any team in the NFL.
Even less than the Giants?
Yeah, the Cowboys were I get something like they've only been leading for like a minute. It was the last minute against the Falcons when they won off the worst onside kick in history. Have you seen those highlights?
Oh, yes, I saw it. I knew all about it, man. That was Real quick, I just want to say shout out to Cowboy X Factor in the chat since we're talking Cowboys. A Cowboys fan in here. He's a great supporter of mine. He wants to talk about the upcoming game, which we will get to. X Factor, don't worry about it. Dylan Renner in the chat as well. Oklahoma City Thunder fan. Mr. Fishing, I'm not sure if I gave him a shout out. The couple of you guys that tuned in there. So, yeah, I mean, the division is a complete joke. I mean, the Eagles are now in first place because they tied last week. That's all you need to know. And other than the Giants, everybody only has 1 win each.
Yeah, and going off the comments too, Jaden Dawkins said something that I didn't factor in with my comments about the defense. We probably actually are where our rank is because I didn't even think about this.
Oh, he's talking about tired?
Yeah, our offense isn't on the field enough. So that is true. Like maybe near the tail end of the game, and 2 of them, the other teams weren't trying to score. But that being said, by the second half, our defense is already exhausted because our offense can't.
I mean, you saw that in week 3,
up.
49ers.
Yeah.
The whole reason we got blown out is because the defense in just the first half was on the field for 20 minutes. They were gone by the time the second half began.
And that's what happened. That's the 49ers' whole game plan is to run the ball in short, quick passes and try to tire you out. So the way to beat the 49ers is to keep your offense on the field for prolonged periods of time. And
so,
that's not
so you know what? I'm gonna rephrase the question I asked earlier. Well, let's make it a 2-parter, right? Where is the defense actually when you factor in that they've been on the field so much that they're tired? Are they actually at 13? Are they just a little bit above it? And then say we had our starting 2 safeties, where do they potentially rank?
I think that we rank right about where we say without the safeties, right about 13. I think you give us both our safeties, and all of a sudden some of those big plays, like McKinnon had a big run, Kupp had a big catch.
Which, by the way, it's interesting you bring up that Cooper catch. Guess what? There was no single high safety up there. I don't know why Patrick Graham called the play with no single high safety, but I would definitely think a factor of it was the fact we didn't have any actual safeties out there.
And that's what I was going to say. Those big plays probably, I can't say definitely, but probably don't happen if we've got our starting safeties back there.
So we have I just see Edward Chan here one, and I gotta highlight it because I don't know about you, but I've not been a fan of Jason Garrett's play calling since week 1. Basically, this is what Edward Chan says. Okay, so I know that the hub really doesn't like Garrett's play calling regarding Slayton not getting targets. What if he's dialing plays for him, but he can't get separation because teams notice him now? So I'm gonna let you answer that first, then I'm gonna give my opinion on it because I have kind of an answer to Edward's question.
So my first response would be Slayton is fast enough and good enough in the open field where if Garrett really wanted to get him the ball, he could do a lot of slants and screens. So I don't think that is 100% the case. There has been some talk about the Giants receivers not being great at creating separation.
Which is true. To an extent, yeah.
And Shepard's not there. So, yeah, maybe Slayton isn't performing great because he can't get separation, but if Garrett really wanted to get him the ball, he could run some slants and some screens. I'm up in the air with Garrett's play calling. Like game 1, I really liked what he dialed up in the beginning.
And then it just fell down from there.
I feel like he doesn't make good in-game changes. So
in-game decisions.
Yeah. So the other so week 1 they started Steelers started stacking the box and blitzing a lot. because the offensive line was terrible. And yet Garrett called no screens. I was texting back and forth with a friend of mine who's a Steelers fan. He's like, if they really wanted to get Barkley involved, do a screen. If Barkley makes one guy miss, it's going to be a huge run.
Here's the thing. I think
safety over the top.
Here's the thing. I think Barkley did have one screen, but that's literally just one screen, and it did go, I think, for like 30 or 40 yards. I'm not. Yeah, I think that was on the Pittsburgh game. Yeah, all his plays came through the passing, and it was one screen. So even though he called it just once, which is idiotic, he didn't even call it again.
Yeah. So that's my problem with Jason Garrett. It's not necessarily the play calling he dials up and the scheme he has. I think we come in with a good scheme and he dials up some decent plays in the beginning. It's when the defense makes the adjustment, he doesn't readjust.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we kind of move the ball pretty well in the beginning of the games.
Terrible in the red zone.
Yeah. Yep. But part of that's Ingram has looked terrible.
Oh, we're going to get to – hold off on that. Keep that in the back of your mind. I was going to get to that eventually. A couple other things to cover on Garrett's play calling here. Through the first 4 weeks, obviously the Giants have struggled in rushing the football. I'm pretty sure we're still dead last in rushing the football. That's on three things. That's on Garrett. That's on the offensive line. That's on the running back. Basically everybody. That's a collective effort to be the worst team in rushing football in the NFL, in my opinion. But here's the thing. Even with that, I feel like Garrett should still be trying to run the football, even if it's to try and catch a defense off guard. But he hasn't been doing that until this game where it seemed to got going in the second half. What do you think about that? Do you think he should have continued to run the football, or do you understand it? Because that's another thing that annoyed me. I was like, why aren't we rushing the football, even, just trying to do it?
Well, I understood it against the 49ers. We were getting blown out, and we couldn't run the ball. Like, the only way to try to stay on it is for Daniel Jones to be throwing it every time, and it sucks. You don't want to get in that.
Well, what about the first half where we were basically keeping it tied with them and we weren't rushing that much?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, but he could work the run game in more, definitely, especially this game. I mean, how many times did we run the ball this week against the Rams?
The most of the entire season.
Game. It was a very close game.
Yeah.
And I don't think we even ran the ball nearly enough for me, at least. So let's pull up the box score. So very close game. Daniel Jones still threw the ball 36 times.
Mm-hmm. And you could take out, let's say we take out like 3 or 4 of DJ's runs, because 3 or 4 of them were just him escaping the pocket and getting away from a sack. So subtract that from the rushing attempts, in my opinion.
All right, so subtract 4 of Daniel Jones's 6. So that's 2 plus 6 is 8, 19, 21. So we ran the ball 21 times. We go back to like the 49ers where we really didn't run the ball at all. So I feel like 21-36 isn't terrible, but we've got a second-year quarterback with a bad offensive line that's struggling, and we're not
weapons,
trying.
like you brought up, that are not doing good in Ingram, which we'll get to in depth more later.
15. We ran the ball 15 times, and Daniel Jones had 5 carries for 49 yards. I don't think a single one was designed. So we really only ran the ball 10 times.
So, yeah, I haven't been happy with that aspect of Jason Garrett. And then we were talking about Slayton earlier. Here was my response to that. I agree with you. If he really wanted to use Slayton, he would use him, in my opinion. I don't know why. It's almost as if he doesn't want to use Darius Slayton. Because look at it. It seems like for every single game, he doesn't get him involved until the fourth quarter, when it's like, all right, I need to take a deep shot, which is another thing he's been struggling at. For some reason, we aren't taking that many deep shots. But if he wanted to use Darius Slayton, he could have. And this was brought up by, one of my boys, Kid Blue and Pest, who I do, the Just Chillin' podcast with every now and again. They point out something, because they watch all 22 film and they break it down. Darius Slayton isn't even the number one option in terms of like when Daniel Jones looks up to have his reads. He's the very last option. He's all the way on the opposite side of the field. That makes no sense. That literally makes no sense. He should be either the first or the second option when DJ looks up, but he's not. What do you think about that?
Well, it frustrates me because I have Slayton in a lot of my fantasy leagues, and I feel like the talent is there. I don't have an answer for it.
Give me your emotions. Are you angry? Are you sad, disappointed, all three?
I don't like. It's definitely like frustration, anger, and disappointment. I'm very disappointed, number one, because like I said, I have him in fantasy. Number two, because I'm a huge Giants fan. I'm angry because it's not like we have other guys doing anything. It would be different if we're like, well, we're losing close games and we're not really getting Slayton involved. Maybe we got to figure out a way to get him involved, but we're moving the ball. Like Daniel Jones threw for 250 yards and a touchdown. No, he threw for like 80 some yards, 180 some yards. Like we're not doing anything. They're not like it doesn't make sense to me.
Another thing, Garrett just he isn't trying to scheme open any of our guys either. I've noticed that. He's not running any plays like any rub routes, for example. That's the easiest one I could come up with. That through the scheme and through the play, the player will get open. He seems to be relying every single play that the player gets open on their own.
And I think that comes from being in Dallas, where he had some very talented wide receivers for a while. And like I said, I think it also comes from his lack of making in-game changes. If you look at the offensive stats and Daniel Jones stats, he goes 279 yards and 2 touchdowns against probably the best defense we played in the Steelers, then 241 yards against a solid Bears defense, 179 against a very good 49ers defense, and 190 against an average Rams. So it's like I said, it's like the other. So we don't have a ton of talent on offense. We thought we were going to. We were wrong. And the defenses have adjusted to what Garrett is dialing up. And we have made no adjustment. We're like, okay, let's just keep trying this and slowly watch it do worse and worse and worse. I guess maybe his thought is, well, we have the Cowboys next week. Their defense is so bad that it doesn't matter if they know what we're running.
And like I said, we will get into that. And I've seen Cowboy X Factor and a couple of my other subs in the chat saying that like the Cowboys defense is one of the worst in the NFL. We'll be fine. And I'm just like, hey man, this offense hasn't proven anything to me yet. So until we're fine, we're not fine, if that makes any sense.
And I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but Saeed, am I saying that right?
Yeah, I just say Sajid, yeah.
Yeah. He made a very good point that was probably the 49ers and Rams defense is probably similar, maybe slight edge Rams right now, because the 49ers were very banged up, especially without their best defensive player in Bosa, without Richard Sherman, and we couldn't move the ball.
I don't think they had Solomon Thomas either, did they?
No, they did not. So yeah. they were missing some really good.
Some heavy hitters.
Yeah. So, God, I don't even want to think about what would have happened to us if Nick Bosa was over there.
Exactly. Shout out to Dollar Beer in the chat, man. Thank you for tuning in, Dollar Beer. Here's the thing. We could
wait. There's Dollar Beer. Where can I get this Dollar Beer?
He's right there. And Nikki in the chat. How you doing, Nikki? Shout out to Nikki, one of my channel members. And by the way, the only member of the Hub Hall of Fame. Nikki right there.
How do I become a Hub Hall of Famer?
Well, literally the only reason I even inducted her was because one night she came on and like was raining super chat after super chat after super chat after super chat. I'm like, I have to find another way to show appreciation. So now she's like inducted into the Hub Hall of Fame.
Nice.
So I was gonna say we could switch over to Evan Ingram now since you brought him up. And maybe I've had a very, very small, short fuse with Ingram. After his week 1 drop, I was done with him. I think he's dropped in every single game since. Drop pass after drop pass, or just not getting open, whatever the case is. He's been a big disappointment. What were you going to say on Evan Ingram?
There's been times where I don't know if Evan Ingram's not trying or if he just literally forgets the plays he's running. There was a play, and I think it was the interception against the Steelers where Daniel Jones threw the ball to where Ingram was running, and Ingram had kind of just stopped. Like he didn't know the play, or maybe it was like a read option where he could run 1 or 2. But for the life of me, that was real bad. He's had some bad drops. He's not blocking well. He's not running crisp routes.
So what John Doe has said here, Ingram has butterfingers and he can't block. Like, why is he our starting tight end? Your 2 jobs, catch the football and block, and he can't do either of it.
And we went out. We got a tight end in the offseason, and we've seen
From
good.
we've seen from last year that Caden Smith could do the job.
And Caden Smith has done pretty well in his limited action this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think, first of all, I think David Gettleman needs to go. What do you think?
All right. So that's a very loaded question. Before I get into it, real quick, Mike, yes, you are indeed a member of the Hall of Fame too. I don't want to turn this into like a super chat competition, guys. I don't want it to seem that way. But Mike, you're in and out because of that. Because him and Edward are like two of the only people that are in my Discord, actively in the Discord, and Mike's been in there since like June. So you know what, Mike? Bam, Hall of Fame nod for you too. So here's the thing with Dave Gettleman. I think, I don't know if I told you, but I've been saying since before the year that unless we have a winning season, he's going to get fired. In other words, I knew he was going to get fired from before the year began. Barring some type of miracle, this man was not going to keep his job. And with an 0-4 start, we could still go like 9-7 by the grace of God. He's still not going to keep his job.
Well, we can go 9-7 without the grace of God because we play in the NFC East.
That is true, but everybody else that we play is pretty damn tough. The West.
Yeah, but as bad as the Giants have looked, and I don't think they're going to, they could realistically go 6-0 in division.
I would love it. Not to go off on a tangent here, I would absolutely love it if we could go 6-0. Before the season began, I said we were going to go 3-3, possibly 4-2. My confidence got shaken after that 49ers game, and maybe I'm way too positive coming off the Rams game, but just because of how good that defense was, like legitimately, Dan, I think if we had just an average offense with that stupendous defense, we'd probably be 2-2 right now. Maybe I'm way too optimistic, but that's why I'm back to thinking we could still go 3-3 or 4-2 in the division.
Yeah. I mean, we could.
So, yeah, to Dave Gettleman, whether I want him to stay or not is not even matter, but he's going to go. I don't want him to go. Maybe I'm holding on to that last bit of I like the way he's built the team, because the reason our defense is that good is because of the base pieces that Gettleman had, and then like the jewels on top that Judge put in Martinez and Bradbury. And then it's like we still have a lot of good pieces from him, but at the end of the day, he did fail what he set out to do. He set out to fix the offensive line. As of right now, the offensive line isn't fixed, but hey, they're improving week by week. And my boy Andrew Thomas, that's somebody else I've loved, in the offseason. He looks really good despite his PFF grades. And I think people forget that compared to the other rookie tackles, he's been up against way tougher competition. You talk about TJ Watt, Bud Dupree week 1, Khalil Mack week 2. Week 3, granted, no excuses there. His toughest, person he went up against was probably DJ Jones or Eric Armstead. But then week 3 again, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, the Rams pass rush. He's been up against way tougher comp. So maybe it's too early for me to judge on the O-line, but as of right now, it's still a failure. So he has failed on what he set out to do, even though I still personally don't want him gone. Why do you want him gone? You want to give a little bit towards that?
Yeah. First, I wanted to say thank you, Nikki, for that shout out. She just did a shout out. 5 Wide. He has great insights. Why I want him gone is because I don't feel like we've fixed the major issues yet. I don't feel like he's done really good with his first round draft picks. Now, I know Baker, you've got the arrest, which he couldn't have predicted, but I still think, the jury's out. I want to hear your opinion right now on Daniel Jones. I think that taking Barkley, we needed a lot more.
It's so funny.
We shouldn't have taken Barkley there.
I want to say real quick, Dan, it's so funny. Everybody knew it was a career rare for both Barkley and for Gettleman. And what a coincidence. I don't know what type of bad luck the Giants have. This man goes down with an ACL injury, out for a year. So not only does that make Barkley look bad because it's second injury in 2 years, but it makes Dave Gettleman look even worse because he's out for his second time in 2 years. I'm just like, it's like the worst luck. I just wanted to put that in there real quick.
I get it that like some of it is luck. Don't get me wrong. Some of it is luck. And so some of it's luck that definitely plays a part. But it's the NFL. Everyone has injuries every week. I mean, the 49ers right now, they had no Samuel, no Mostrif, no Bosa. no Sherman. They're winning games. No Jimmy G. He's not putting. We don't have enough talent out there. He has done pretty well, in my mind, in going out and getting some guys like Peppers and Martinez and Golden Tate.
Peppers, by the way, I know this weakens my argument because I'm arguing for Gettleman, and I'm going to have a rebuttal. So is what you're saying, but this is kind of for your argument. Peppers injured again, second time in 2 years. He's not exactly doing great either.
Yeah. So I sit there and I just think like he hasn't hit on 3 years worth of drafts yet, and he let Landon Collins leave the team, and I don't think he got enough back for.
Well,
Eli.
He got nothing back.
He let Landon Collins. I was gonna say I don't think he got enough back for Odell Beckham and Eli Apple and JPP. So it's tough. He wasn't given a great squad, but we also weren't terrible. We were only 1 year removed from the playoffs.
I think we can all agree, Dan. Let's keep it. I think we could all agree we were not a playoff team in 2016. We overachieved to the max. That team couldn't score over 20 points. It's kind of similar to this year. That team could not score over 20 points, and the defense played up so above what they actually were. And it was a weak schedule.
Yeah.
But let me go through your argument. I'm gonna work backwards, right? So the last thing you said were we didn't like that Landon Collins walked for nothing, which I agree. I never liked the fact that Landon Collins walked for nothing, but I was never against letting Landon Collins walk because the dude, we saw how much money he wanted. He's definitely not worth that much money. I still think that Peppers is a good replacement. It's just that dude can't stay healthy, which is a problem. I'll concede that. OBJ, I'm still for the fact that OBJ trade was good because the dude has disappeared in 2018 and 2019. I think people forget that. 2018, 2019, Odell was not the elite Odell. It was the average Odell. And it looks like he's going back to that elite Odell. But you got to remember, we got Dexter Lawrence out of that, who is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game right now. We got, albeit it's unfortunate, I think did Baker come from that? Or did we use something to trade up for that 30th pick for Baker, which obviously didn't end up good?
We traded up for Baker. Yeah.
We got Peppers, who still has yet to pan out. But if we didn't trade Odell and create a little bit of cap space, I don't think we have Martinez or Bradbury.
Point. I'm not arguing that point. I just don't know if we got enough for Odell. That's my mind. I think that we didn't get enough.
I agree. I'll give you that.
And I don't think we got enough for JPP. And I'll
definitely give you that because I think everybody wanted 2 first rounders for Odell.
And I don't think we got enough for. I don't think we got enough for Eli Apple either. I know everyone loves to hate on Eli Apple because he's not a number 1 corner, and we shouldn't have taken him in the first round. And that was before Gettleman, so that's not on Gettleman. But we got a 6th round, 7th round pick for a guy we used the 1st round draft pick on?
I want to say 5th. We definitely did not get enough for Eli Apple. 100% I agree with you there.
With the Saints. They got so they got a 4th and a 7th.
Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, we could have gotten a 3rd for him probably, but not much else. You got to remember, it's not exactly like he was producing that a team would give us anything higher than that. But I think we did get as much as we can for JPP because nobody wanted JPP except for the team that traded for him, who was the Bucs. Literally no other team in the league was out here seeking JPP, right? And then going back a little bit more into your argument, what else did you say for Gelman being gone? What did you say before you brought up Collins and Odell? I can't remember.
I think that was it. Just Collins. I mentioned that he hasn't done great with the draft.
And that is definitely something that's not being called into question. The 2018 draft specifically, because obviously with Saquon going out, Will Hernandez, his 3rd year, not looking good. But like I said, with Hernandez and with the offensive line, I'm going to give it to the end of the year to see where they end up. Because got to remember the competition and brand new everything, you know what I'm saying? Like you brought up the 49ers, for example. They were missing talent, but they still get good. They have better coaching than us. And I don't think it's an insult to the Giants coaching staff. It's just the reality of the situation that it's their first year together. It's their first year running everything. COVID messing up offseason. I think people forget they only had 4 weeks to install the offensive and defensive plans. And so the offense is starting up slower than we thought it would, but kind of understandable because they only had 4 weeks to install these plans. So that's my counter argument to that.
And so case in point, you're right. We didn't have a preseason. We didn't have an off season, much of an off season. We're starting a lot of young guys on the offensive line. Daniel Jones is in his second year. So maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe in 2 or 3 weeks I'll be back here.
Or maybe I'm wrong.
And I'll be like, hey, we just beat the Cowboys. We just beat the Redskins. We're heading in to face,
Eagles,
Philly.
I think. Yeah,
Philly. And I'm going, all right, maybe we're not terrible. I mean, we're not good. There's no doubt about that. But maybe we aren't bad.
So, I mean, like I said, I could be just as wrong too. Yeah. Like, honestly, both parts are like equally likely. So getting back to Hernandez real quick, what do you think about him? Are you giving him the year too, or are you just like, he literally had one good year, which was his rookie year, had the sophomore slump last year, and then he seems to be going into his third year just looking really bad again?
So I feel like he gets hit on real bad for his performance last year. But if you look at the Giants' interior offensive line last year, statistically, it was average.
Mm-hmm.
It was their tackles that was below average. So I'm not ready to completely give up on him. I think there's also the argument to be made that the offensive line is more of a unit than a lot of other positions. So if your tackle's not doing well, if your center's not doing well, if someone who's supposed to be like chipping, then going back down to a linebacker isn't chipping to help you, it makes you bad. So I think I'm not completely ready to give up on Will Hernandez. He did have a really good rookie year. I think he had a slightly better than people think last year, which means he had a bad, not a really bad season. And we'll see. It's early.
And sophomore slumps are a thing. I think the Giants fans in particular and Giants media forget that there's this thing known as a sophomore slump that a lot of players go through, and they can rebound from it.
I think a lot of fan bases forget that, especially fan bases that are used to winning. And the Giants...
Well, I don't know if it's even fair to say that, because in the past years, we're not used to winning, the past like 10 years.
No, I would argue that we were used to winning up until 3-4 years ago. We won a Super Bowl in 2007, a Super Bowl in 2011 with Eli. We won a lot of division titles, a lot of second places, a lot of playoff appearances. He finished 500, and you got to remember his last 2 seasons with the team, we were terrible.
His last, 4, bro. Since basically, 2014, I think we've been 6-10 or worse.
No,
of course, excluding 2016. So
I feel like up until the last 3 or 4 years, we were at least competitive.
Mm-hmm.
We were at least putting out decent teams, and so now that's why I think people aren't really willing to wait. They're getting frustrated now. They're like, this is in the NFL, they say it like teams can turn on a dime, and yet the Giants have been bad repeatedly. 49ers were horrible 2 years ago, went to the Super Bowl last year. I think John Doe might be right, by the way. Hernandez is the epitome of average. He is definitely...
Which is not bad. That's good if he is the epitome of average, in my opinion. And I agree with you. That's why I said I'm giving it towards the end of the year. You mentioned the offensive line is more of a unit than anything else on a football team. And guess what? On that unit, 60% of it is new. There's 2 new tackles and a new center. That's definitely going to affect how he's performing.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge fan of the way our center's been playing.
Oh, yeah. I want Nick Gates gone.
Sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I want to do one. Can we do one quick question on how you feel with Daniel Jones and then a couple fantasy updates?
For sure.
All right. So there you go. How do you feel about Daniel Jones?
All right. So I don't know if you looked at any of my reaction videos for the games, both for 49ers and for Rams. But more so for Rams, and I guess in every single video I've made this year, I've kind of given this opinion. I feel sorry for Daniel Jones. This man is out here with an offensive line that's hot and cold last week, but before last week was bad. They were average in pass protection, terrible in week 3, and terrible in run blocking up until this week, which once again was hot and cold. He's been playing with basically no weapons. And I say basically no weapons because they're either not getting open, they're either not being schemed open, or they just straight up can't catch the football and hold on to it. And he's been playing with a play caller in Jason Garrett that's not sure what he wants this offense to be yet. So it's been a lot of vanilla plays and not a lot of adjustments, like you pointed out. To put it lightly, he's been put in a terrible situation as a second-year quarterback that, in my opinion, might be going through a sophomore slump. And because of the expectations on him, because he plays for New York, because he did so well in his rookie year, and you combine that with the fact that he might be having a sophomore slump in the situation that he is, it really makes it seem worse than what he actually is. And I think he's still a good quarterback. I think he's still our franchise guy. I think that fans are way too quick to jump on the tank for Trevor Lawrence train. I think that fans are way too quick to abandon this guy because they're not considering the context of the situation. And I just feel bad for him. Once again, it's not out of the question that he just might be having a sophomore slump, and he could bounce back from that.
Well, I'd state Eli did not look great his first couple of seasons.
In year 3, he had a game where he threw 4 picks and fans were outside Giant Stadium burning his jerseys, but people don't remember that.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that. I remember them blowing what they start off 6-2 and they finished like 9-7, barely made the playoffs. And Tiki Barber quits on the team, says they're never going to be good, that Eli's overrated. I remember all that.
And by the way, Eli was in a way better situation because he had a really good offensive line and he had a couple of reliable weapons. Can't say the same for DJ right now.
Amani Toomer. So if you think Amani Toomer probably slightly better than Slayton. Plexico Burress way better than anyone we had. Jeremy Shockey, before he got injured, was legitimately arguably the best tight end in the NFL. Tiki Barber was great. A great running back. He did it all.
It's so funny? The parallelism here. We have Saquon, who's, the new Tiki, basically, not in terms of how they play, but talent level, probably even more, but he can't stay healthy. We have Evan Ingram, who should be one of the best tight ends in the league, so the new Shockey, but he can't stay healthy. We got Darius Slayton, who the best player comp I've seen for Slayton is actually Amari Toomer, but Slayton is not getting open and whatnot. It's so funny, the parallelism, but it's just not, it's not completely there.
So, yeah, and I think it's funny because I do feel like Slayton is a lot like Amari Toomer. And when Amari Toomer was our number one receiver before we went out and got Plexico Burress, our offense wasn't great. But I forget now. I'm kind of like lost where I was. So Eli had better weapons and struggled. The thing that Daniel Jones has been doing, and I've heard a couple people who break down film, is he is not making his progressions great, but I feel like a large part of that is because he constantly now is like nervous with the fumbles and the bad offensive line. I feel like he often will like look downfield, and instead of trying to look off a defender or move to the next progression, his eyes are scanning to see the defensive lineman. Is there anybody there? Is there anyone here? You'll even see him sometimes move the ball down. That's why he's been tucking and running so much. I feel like
going back to the fact that Eli also had a better O-line. This O-line up until last week was terrible.
Yeah. And last week they weren't great by any stretch of imagination. They improved. So I don't think we should shut the door on Daniel Jones just yet. I am a little disappointed. I do think that there's some. Yes, he does stare his wide receivers.
That is true. He stares his wide receivers down.
I think
to fix that. That is true.
I think there's some flags, some pretty big red flags that hopefully Daniel Jones can fix because he stares wide receivers down. He still is having the turnover issues.
Which this year seems to be more bad decision making than because of the interceptions versus the fumbles. Like that pick at the end of the game was just a bad decision. It wasn't a boneheaded decision. It was just a bad decision. Like he had an open lane, and I felt like he forced the ball.
Yeah, and but so some of his picks are also like that TJ Watt pick week 1. I don't think that was on him. I'm sorry. Most people don't expect somebody to get off of a block, jump 2-3 feet in the air and pick the ball off. Like, it was a
Dan,
tremendous
I agree with you,
offensive
Dan. But
talent.
in fairness, right? I agree with you. But in fairness, other than the TJ Watt one, every other one is on him, and that's still a good amount of picks.
Well, I argued that his other one against the Steelers could have been on Evan Ingram because it looked like Ingram stopped running the route. But yeah, yes, definitely.
To respond to Sajid real quick, because I think you could shed some light on this too, since you obviously saw the Giants back then. I'm going off of replays, highlights, reading articles online and stuff. Sajid said Eli's pocket presence was way better than Jones, which I agree with. Here's the thing: I think Eli's pocket presence was way better than Jones because he was allowed to develop that with a better offensive line. Jones from the get-go has been kind of stuck in a pocket shy type of mentality because his offensive line hasn't given him a chance to actually develop it. What do you think?
I think that his pocket presence was better. I don't think that's debatable. How much of that comes from the offensive line, we can go back and forth. But his pocket presence wasn't significantly better. Eli still threw a lot of picks. He didn't have the fumble issues. He didn't have the strip sacks. And he did have a slightly better offensive line. But it wasn't like, we're not talking about Eli Manning having vintage Aaron Rodgers pocket presence, or who's another guy that just doesn't turn the ball over.
I do want to say
Russell Wilson pocket presence.
Vintage Eli, we're talking about prime Eli. I do think his pocket presence was really, really good.
Yeah. So I think that he did have better pocket presence. I think the offensive line plays a part, but I think even if Eli had this offensive line, he had a better pocket presence than Daniel Jones. Granted, he couldn't move, so Eli would be getting sacked 7 or 8 times a game with this offensive line, but he wouldn't be throwing the amount of picks. He wouldn't make the bad mistakes.
So what do you think about the whole tank for Trevor thing? On a second-year quarterback.
So I'm just gonna name a couple of guys and just throw this out there. All right, so Andrew Luck was a sure thing. Everybody, right? He did okay. He was a solid player. Retired young, not by any stretch of the imagination a great player. Also in that draft, RG3, sure thing. The Redskins gave up everything to get him, and he had one season. All right, we go.
The only person out of that draft that lasted was Wilson in that same
draft.
I think
Wilson, but he went late.
Mm-hmm.
Another sure thing. I remember reading so much about how the Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, 2 of the quarterbacks of the future. Not seeing that. All right, so let's keep going. Who's some other young sure things?
You want to use the recent one, Baker Mayfield. He hasn't proven to be a sure thing yet.
Nope, Baker Mayfield. I was actually going to go Josh Rosen. Rosen.
That's the perfect one.
I have a lot of friends who are Bills fans. They straight up lost their mind that they took Josh Allen.
Experimental.
Yeah, over Josh Rosen. They were losing it, livid, furious. So I don't ever think that the idea is to tank for a guy. There's no such thing as a sure thing in the NFL. You don't know what's going to happen with injuries. You don't know how well their work ethic's going to be, how well their game's going to translate. There has been time and time again. I mean, arguably right now, Tom Brady's arguably the best quarterback of all time. He was a 6th round pick. Drew Brees was too short. He went 3rd or 4th, and
he even went from the Chargers to the Saints.
Yeah. Russell Wilson, we just mentioned Russell Wilson wasn't taken until the 5th or 6th round. He was not the big. Nobody expected Russell Wilson to be what he is coming out of college.
You want to use another recent one, Gardner Minshew?
Yeah, Gardner Minshew,
6th round pick, looks great.
They keep saying Gardner Minshew that the Jags want to tank for.
I think Gardner Minshew. I think it's stupid if they do. Gardner Minshew legit won them 2 games by himself.
He's the most underrated player in sports, not just in football, in sports. So And I mean, even like Patrick Mahomes wasn't considered a sure thing. He was taken in the first round, but he
It's
wasn't.
funny. Mahomes and Allen were both the experimental quarterbacks of their class.
And Lamar Jackson was the experimental quarterback taken late. And right now, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are taking the league by storm. So, I think, yeah, thank you, Saeed. Wilson was a third rounder.
Okay.
So I think that tanking for a guy is never a great idea. I think.
Has it ever worked out? That's the thing, right?
Like
I can't. Nothing comes to mind.
No,
Suck
I
for one
remember
didn't work out because guess what? Andrew Luck's retired. Tank for Tua has yet to play out. The tank for Kyler Murray has yet to play out. I can't remember if the Colts tanked for Peyton Manning or if it just happened to be like that. I can't think of a time that tanking for a quarterback worked out. Maybe it's slipping my mind.
I remember tanking for Reggie Bush. Everyone thought that was what the Texans were doing. Then they took Mario Williams and everyone destroyed him. And you're younger than me. Reggie Bush
isn't he still the best running back in college football history?
I think probably Barry Sanders would be the best, but Reggie Bush would be a close second. So great, so unbelievably good. And then he just came to the NFL and he was very average. And I mean, he was unbelievable in college. That USC team was great. There was a game against Cal where I think he had 530 yards.
Damn.
As a running back. I want to pull it up now, but it was he.
And while you pulled that up, Sajid said Mario Williams was a very good NFL player.
Yeah, better than Reggie Bush. Better than Reggie Bush. And everybody was like, oh, the Texans made a huge mistake. All right, so let's pull it up. Reggie Bush. So Reggie Bush's junior year, he rushed for 1,700 yards and caught for 478. And I want to pull up his game log. It's got to be here somewhere.
Nerding on Sports has a question. He says, didn't Houston actually sign Williams before the draft?
They may have. I don't remember.
Yeah, Sajid, for me, that's my definition of NFL average. It still means you're good, but you're not what you were expected to be.
So I was wrong. It was Fresno State. It was actually the week after he had kind of an off game for him. He only averaged 5 yards a carry against Cal. Against Fresno State, he had 294 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 3 catches for 68 yards, and he had 7 kick returns for 135 yards and a touchdown. And then he had 1 punt return for 16 yards. So you add all that up. What's that? 294 plus 68. It's like 350 something. Yeah. So when you add it all up, he had about 500 all-purpose yards between return, receiving, rushing in a game.
Jesus Christ.
All right.
So that's a really good example right there about the tanking thing. I want to get to TD's question here. He said, here, guys, what's your opinion on Ryan Lewis from the Ram games? I thought he played well, and to be honest, I didn't even know when we acquired him. I agree with you. I didn't know that we acquired him at all, let alone when we acquired him. But we had a cornerback, Ryan Lewis, out there that was playing number 2 cornerback for the Giants out there, sometimes even slot a little bit, and he looked good. I mean, good as in average. You know what I'm saying? I completely expected him to be a scrub, and he helped prevent the Rams' passing offense from getting off. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I definitely was pleasantly surprised as well. I don't have much more to say on that other than the defense as a whole pleasantly surprised me.
Sajid says if you remember Ricky Williams.
I remember Ricky Williams smoking a lot of pot and leaving the Saints after Mike Ditka.
Then was that the player they traded like everything for?
Yeah.
Ricky
Williams' hype was. I was in high school during all that. I don't remember it as well as Reggie Bush, but yeah, Ricky Williams' hype was up there. It was pretty crazy. I also remember that he took a year off. He came back and he was very solid on the Dolphins with who was their other running back when they did the Wildcat? Ronnie Brown.
Ricky Look at Williams. That. Memories coming in.
Yeah. All right. So
let's switch over to fantasy now. Let's talk about fantasy.
Because I know that there's been a lot of injuries. So I feel like I'm talking as a fantasy expert, but in our league, I'm 1-3.
I was literally just about to say this is the part of podcast, guys, where I shift and Dan starts taking over, and then you just like, I'm not the expert right away.
And then in our other league that I'm 2-2, and I just lost to you, right?
Queens Bravos? Yeah, I can't believe that I actually beat you because I didn't have my defense playing. I had Steelers defense. I forgot to sub them out, and yeah, I can't believe that I still caught a win over that one.
Well, I'm a little frustrated. You beat me in large part because a guy named Derrick Henry didn't play this week. A guy named Calvin Ridley finished with 0 catches for 0 yards. Those hurt really bad. Mostriff is also injured, and I had Kareem Hunt on my bench because I should have predicted that Nick Chubb was going to get injured, right? Like, come on, who didn't see that coming?
It took me just a split second to figure out this man was being sarcastic.
Yes, it's complete sarcasm. So if anybody here is playing fantasy football like I am, like the hub here is, we you've probably been getting killed by injuries. So like in our one league, I took Saquon Barkley in 2nd overall, and I was lucky to just be able to trade Travis Kelce for James Robinson, and then I was able
let me see if I could pull that up. So if I go to New York Judges, would it be in
It was the New York 5-wide football.
Oh, team. Your New York 5-wide football.
That was
the Creators League or the other league?
The other league, the Listener.
Is it just called My 2020 League?
It is called, let's see, I've got it up on my 2020, yep.
Okay, so then now let me go into...
I've got my first win, thankfully.
Let's go to the league.
Yeah, Kamara's is a beast.
This is the recent activity here. Was it recent?
Last week I traded. I traded Hail Mary Satan.
Okay, let me zoom in here so people could see. Let's look for a trade. New York 5-wide football. That's you adding some stuff.
Yeah, I added Alan Lazard. I was super stoked about that, and then he didn't play.
I don't see the trade here for some reason. Does it not show trades? Oh, I think this is it. Yep. So narrate us through this.
All right. So my team is doing absolutely terrible. I had to do stuff with Saquon Barkley getting injured. So I found a guy who really, really wanted Travis Kelce, and I was able to turn Travis Kelce and 2 guys I got off waiver wire, and Frank Gore and Boston Scott, due to injuries, he needed some running back depth, into James Robinson, who's killing it, Tyler Boyd, who's killing it, and Jonnu Smith, who's killing it. So what I keep telling everybody is work the waiver wire. As you look through, I've been doing a ton of moves, and just keep working the waiver wire, and then try to trade some of these waiver wire pickups into decent players. So find something somebody needs. So like I worked the waiver wire a lot after Saquon Barkley went down to get running back depth. So I've currently got Mike Davis, who I got off waiver wires.
Let me pull up your roster here.
Robinson, who I got off the trade. And then if you go down, I got Montgomery, who I drafted, Fournette, who I drafted, and then I had just traded away 2 other running backs that I got off waiver wires. So what I was telling people is there's going to constantly be injuries. Right now, one of the big guys to look at is the 3rd string running back for the Browns. What is his name? Browns running backs. Dearness Johnson with Nick Chubb's out. You're going to want to look at him. You're going to want to look at Zach Moss coming back from being injured for a couple of weeks. And you just want to make waiver wire pickups. And then when somebody loses a running back or a receiver or something, turn your waiver wire
I
pickups.
just want to say somehow, some way, Jared Goff is available in our league and Malcolm Brown. I don't know how, along with Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. Pick up Malcolm Brown. Pick up, listen, like I listen to Fantasy Footballers Waiver Wire podcast every week. I read their very good article by
Austin Hooper is available. I just have to throw it out there. That's one of the best tight ends in the league.
But he's struggling this year.
He's sharing with the other Cleveland tight end, isn't he?
Yeah, Joku.
Laviska Shenault, who I think is good, and Brandon Ayuk, the two rookies who are doing good so far.
Yeah. Yes, they are doing very good. Ayuk is really good.
I want to say if anybody wants to do that catches touchdowns, kind of like Will Fuller used to a couple years ago for me in fantasy, Mo Alley Cox, bro. He be catch touchdowns.
He does. He's huge. Man, the guy's like 6'7" or something. He's like basically LeBron James on the field. He's a huge dude.
Position rank 14. I don't even know how he's still low key. Let me go and look at my my squad right now. Hold up. Can I pick up any of these guys? Do I have a need to pick up any of these guys? Like my wide receiving core, I'm still fine with. Julio is still questionable. And by the way, guys, I don't want to say I got lucky because it's not like I drafted my roster by luck, but injuries haven't hit me as hard as they have hit everybody else. It's just kind of like the players I had on my team didn't really get injured. So there was really not that much need of me to be on the waiver wire. But if there's anybody here that I would pick up, I got a couple questionable guys. Maybe I should drop a Marlon Mack who's on injury reserve. Do I drop any of these questionable guys or do I keep them?
Do you drop? I'm sorry, I missed. Do you drop any of what questionable guys?
Hey, do I drop any of these questionable guys or do I just keep them on here?
So the big one that a lot of people have been dropping is Marvin Jones and Henry Ruggs. They've been getting dropped a lot, and people have been replacing those guys with, like, if Justin Jefferson's still around, if let's see who's some of the other receivers. The guy for
Marvin Jones is healthy now, it says.
Yeah, but a lot of people have been dropping him because he's not been performing. Scott Miller with the Tampa Bay is a big guy that a lot of people are picking up. Laviska Shenault,
Yep.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
I just mentioned, Laviska Shenault.
Yeah. A lot of people picking him up.
If I do pick him up, do I replace him with Brandon Cooks, with Laviska Shenault, or with Brandon Ayuk?
So I would actually, my number one guy right now, I would be going after Scotty Miller.
Scotty Miller, who I don't even see here.
A number 3 guy for the Bucks. He's a short, little, quick, white receiver that just kind of fits what Tom Brady likes to do. Good route runner. He's been putting up some pretty good numbers, especially if Godwin can't play again. His stats so far.
Oh, he's questionable, unfortunately.
He's got 5 catches, 83 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 83 yards, 2 catches, 11 yards, 5 catches, 73 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing pretty well. I like Clay Chasepool too. Chase Claypool, as I mixed up their names with the Steelers, especially if Deontay Johnson can't go with his concussions.
He's been inconsistent in terms of the points production.
He's a rookie. So you kind of look at that. But those are kind of the guys I'm looking at. Some people are getting high on Mike Williams. I don't like Mike Williams.
I will admit I'm getting high on Ayuk and Shenault.
Yeah, I'm high on Shenault.
Because they've been using him because he's huge. They've been using him like to run too.
Yeah, because they love to do that. He's been kind of filling Deebo Samuel's role from last year. I'm interested to see what happens this week with Samuel back again. I know he was technically back last week, but they barely played him.
So I'm going to now. Okay, so I'm claving Laviska Shenault. Do I drop Ruggs or Jones out of these two?
I'd probably drop Ruggs.
Okay.
in a redraft, if it's dynasty, just so people, if anyone's doing dynasty, don't drop Ruggs. He's 21-year-old rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't drop the rookie unless they look absolutely horrible.
Does anybody know what's up with Marlon? Is he like on injury reserve for the rest of the year?
Yeah, he's done for a season.
He's done. I should have dropped him a while ago. Let me drop him.
Yeah. What did he? I think he tore something. He had surgery, so yeah, torn Achilles.
Hmm.
That's like torn Achilles. I think is 9 to 12 months. So,
Is there any other players that people should be looking at, or any players you want to recommend on the waiver wire?
yeah, like I said, Johnson's a big one for the Browns at running back. The other running back, Zach Moss. You want to look. So, who else went down? Philip Lindsay's
These are the
supposed to
current
be.
running backs in this league right here, if it gives you any ideas.
Yeah, Philip Lindsay's supposed to be coming back. I would be looking at him. Chase Edmondson, Kenyon Drake's been struggling a little bit. He was hurt.
What about Rex Burkhead, who I think had a nice week this past.
Rex Burkhead had a really good week 2 weeks ago. I don't like Patriot running backs because they do committee. James White has been out for a little while. I don't know if you heard about what happened with him.
I did not.
His mother was in a very bad car accident, and then he didn't play for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But now Sonny Michel went on the IR. So, oh no, it wasn't his mother. I'm sorry. James White's father died in a car accident a couple weeks ago, unexpectedly. But now Sonny Michel goes the IR. The Patriots they historically use so many running backs. You've got Harris, White, Michel, Burkhead. Cam Newton will take away goal line touches. He's kind of like how Devin Singletary. It's so frustrating to own Devin Singletary. He goes 15 carries for 80 yards, but no touchdowns because Josh Allen steals all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Saeed. Perfect. I can't believe that slipped my mind. Justin Jackson with Eckler out and Josh Kelly having some fumble issues. I think Josh Kelly stays in the same position where he's getting less carries and being used as a receiver. And Justin Jackson moves into Eckler's position, and you see Justin Jackson getting 10 to 15 carries a game.
He is still available in this league.
Yeah. Like, the one thing you got to remember is Eckler's out 4 to 6 weeks. So if you do pick up Justin Jackson, it's got to be because you got a QB or an RB injured that's coming back, because he is not going to be a week in, week out starter for you. You're going to get somewhere between 3 to 5 games from him.
And then he also asked about Hunter Renfro, Vegas.
If Hunter Renfro is available, he's good in PPR, really good in PPR.
Jesus, his season stats pretty good. And the last 2 weeks he's been producing.
Yes, and Gaming. Yes, his dad died. Mother's in critical condition. Yeah, it was terrible, unexpected car accident for White. I love Hunter Renfro. Do you follow college football at all?
I do not.
So Hunter Renfro is he didn't get a scholarship. He's a walk-on. I kept wanting to say undrafted rookie. Mm-hmm. He went to Clemson and didn't really do much of anything. And then that year with Deshaun Watson, I think it was the 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, it was a 2016 year, 2017 championship, I think.
Yeah, he destroyed it in the national championship. No one knew who he was before then. And then, he does okay his junior year. Then he has a really, really good senior year and destroys it in the national championship again. So he's won 2 national championships, plays great on the biggest stage. Then he goes in the NFL and he very solid rookie campaign and doing pretty well this year too. he's just kind of he's one of those guys that isn't tremendously talented, but just works so hard and just always in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
The players you need, you need a couple of those guys.
Anything else or anybody else we should be looking at waiver wire right now?
I don't think so. I think we've hit all of them. The Justin Jackson was a good one. Very deep league. You might want to look at Gabriel Davis for the Bills. He's kind of a boomer bust, pretty dependent on the touchdown, but he's been performing performing recently. So that's another guy that I've been kind of keeping an eye on. He had a really good game last week.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really it.
For some reason, in one of my leagues, here are the guys that are available, and I can't believe it, bro. Drew Brees. Okay, I can't believe Drew Brees actually, but Jarvis Landry, Mark Ingram, Myles Gaskin, Mike Gesicki, Justin Jefferson, Joe Burrow. Somehow, some way, all those guys are available.
If you need a receiver, get Jefferson. He's going to
sure. Isn't he like on a kind of record-setting ish campaign?
Maybe for a rookie.
Yeah, for a rookie, yeah.
His last 2 games have been unreal. He didn't start off great. I want to mention I have an article, top 5 rookies landing spots, who landed the best out of rookies for fantasy, and the number 1 guy I picked was Justin Jefferson. Not to pat myself on the back too much.
Go ahead and pat yourself, man.
But so if you want to check that article out, yeah, I didn't even think to list Justin Jefferson, Mark Ingram, or Myles Gaskin, because I assumed that they're rostered on every team.
If I have Kerryon Johnson on my team, do I drop him for Mark Ingram?
Yeah, get rid of Kerryon.
For some reason, I expected he would be better than he is performing right now.
He's their 3rd string behind a rookie and a 36-year-old
AP
Peterson. So
yeah,
just the thing you got to remember is Mark Ingram is very touchdown dependent because they use a lot of running backs. So I'd make sure I'd check and see that it's a good matchup, because Mark Ingram's not going to be a start every week guy like he's been the past few seasons.
Definitely understandable. I'm surprised Gesicki is available though. He's been good.
Yeah, very good. I have him in 2 different leagues. He's been very good.
Somehow, some way, once again in this league too, you got Jared Goff available. Yeah, there's a couple guys here that I wouldn't expect to be here. Malcolm Brown seems to be the sleeper in the 2 leagues I've been in so far. He's just always available. Defense-wise, I don't know why the Seahawks defense are still available.
The Seahawks defense hasn't been as great as it's been previously. This year, they've been less than stellar.
You are right. Their position rank is 24. I guess the reason I think they're good is because I haven't needed them, I guess, because I have them in most of my leagues.
In their defense, they've played some very good offenses. They played the Falcons, who've been looking really good. The Patriots, who with Cam Newton had been steadily getting better. Obviously, this week they looked horrible with Brian Hoyer. The Cowboys, whose offense is historically great, which is only canceled out by the worst defense that I feel like has ever played in football history.
Are you serious? It's not that bad.
The Cowboys defense?
You said football history.
Look at Dak Prescott's stats the last few weeks.
I know, but to say that they have the worst defense in football history, that's a very, very big claim. There's been some pretty terrible defenses in football history.
The way they are,
the 2017 Giants, for example.
The way they are currently playing, they gave up 39 to Falcons, 38 to Seahawks, 49 to the Browns.
How much do you think they're giving up to us? A team that can't score.
So I was talking with some guys the other day. I feel like it's going to be like a very competitive first half where the Giants will score kind of keep it competitive. Might be like something like 24-17 Cowboys or something at half, and then they're gonna beat us by like 42 to like 20.
That's a blowout.
Yep. I mean, I could be
Do you
wrong.
think our defense is giving up 42 points?
Have you seen the Cowboys offense this year?
I know. I actually had them beforehand as the best offense in the league going into the year.
I mean, their number 3 receiver is CD Lamb.
That's part of the reason I had them as the best offense going into the year. But
That's why
42 points is a lot.
they can't pay Dak Prescott because they've got 3 top 20 wide receivers, a top 3 running back, and then arguably the best or second best rookie wide receiver in CD Lamb. I mean, they're
stacked. They're stacked.
Yeah, but their defense is so bad that it doesn't matter.
Mm.
I mean, they're 1-3. They have to cut either Amari Cooper or Elliott after this season because they can't pay all of them and keep Dak Prescott.
I don't know if Mike is still in here, but way earlier on, before we got to the topic, he was talking about an article that was on ESPN suggesting that they trade Zeke.
As you keep losing, possibly. I'm just wondering what
who's trading for him?
That's what I was gonna say. What current playoff team do you feel like is a running back away from winning it? So like the Chiefs, they've got their running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Here's the thing. I don't think there's any playoff team that's a running back away, but there is one playoff team I could think of that would really love a Zeke Elliott, even though they don't particularly need him just because of his running style, and that would be the Ravens.
Yeah, but the Ravens, it doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying. They don't need him, but I could see him fitting there.
Yeah, they got Ingram, Dobbins, and Edwards. You'd have to look for a team that needs a running back to compete with some of those good offenses like the Ravens and the Chiefs. Or if you come over into the so the only team I could see maybe doing it would be like the Packers if Aaron Jones went down.
Yeah, that's the thing though. I don't think Aaron Jones is going down.
Or the Saints if Amari Cooper go. I mean, not Amari Cooper. If Kamara goes.
What about the Cardinals?
Yeah, but they don't look like a playoff team right now.
They don't. But with Zeke, they could possibly be competitive in the West.
Yeah, but they just paid. They just went out last season and traded for Kenyon Drake.
That is true, but I mean, I think it's definitely an upgrade.
No, there's no doubt about that. But I'm just, do they want to keep giving up draft picks when they've got a really good young quarterback?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, when I say I don't know, I mean I don't know if I don't know, man. I feel like just to throw out a team that could become competitive because they're already fairly competitive in the West so far, and the West is the best division in football. I think he could definitely add something to them. But yeah, it's a good point. You want to continue to build around Murray.
If the Patriots wanted to try to knock the Bills off, I could see them going out and getting Elliott.
That's true.
They do that.
Again, like you said, they are by committee.
Yeah.
And they have Michelle too.
Yep. Yeah, but he hasn't looked great, and he's on the IR right now.
He is on IR right now, yeah.
Other teams, surprisingly, the Bears are 3-1, and David Montgomery.
I feel like the Bears are going to slowly get worse as the year goes on.
Yeah, so do I. But David Montgomery is not the answer there, so maybe they do it.
You think he's a rotational back?
Yeah. God, I have him in fantasy, and I watch him week in and week out, and he's got no big play capability.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. He gets 4 or 5 yards a carry, and he doesn't fumble. He's not easy to take down. He gets you a couple of yards, but he's the boringest player in sports.
But he does his job though.
Yeah, but not great. 15
I
carries
mean, do
for
you
like
need him
50
to be great?
yards. If you want, if they believe they have a chance in the playoffs this year, yeah, they need David Montgomery to be great.
It's funny you bring up the Bears though. I don't know if you remember, but before the season started, when we were talking about Dak Prescott, how I think he's not going to stay with the Cowboys, the team I said he would probably go to is the Bears. It's so that's why I say it's funny. I don't know if you remember that, but I was like, Dak to the Bears makes sense just because he would. I feel like he would do well in their offense, and I feel like they could use a quarterback like Dak.
Oh yeah, they definitely could. They have a very good defense. It would
Hmm.
be a big change going from a great offense with a terrible defense to a
Mediocre probably offense with Dak in there.
yeah.
So
Uh,
with a really good defense.
how funny would that be if Elliott and Prescott went to the Bears?
It'd be hilarious. But that's one team I could definitely see Dak ended up on because the more and more the year goes on, and ever since he was franchise tagged for second time, I was like, he's not gonna end up with Dallas again.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
But unless anybody else has more questions, I think it's a good point to call it a podcast here, Dan.
Yeah, I'm getting a little tired, so
So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Been another episode of Fantastic Giants. You're kind of halfway out. Yeah, I was like, yeah, that thumbs up was not in there.
yeah, I saw that. I was like, yeah, that's not going well. There you go.
Guys, don't forget to go check out Dan. Check out his article. Check out 5Y Football's